There are plenty of videos out there with no DLC, no Samuel, no gold, no fun, beating Engage. So why did I do this particular run? Before we get to that, let's briefly discuss the rules that are in the description down below. I won't cover them extensively since they're already there, but there are 2 points I want to bring up. For starters, the DLC in Engage completely trivializes the difficulty curve. Access to more XP, more emblems, more skills, more resources in general, and the silver card made this run a lot, and I mean a lot, easier than if I had no DLC. Still, I do believe it's doable without the DLC, but I wanted to enjoy our experience and explore more things, so I did it with the DLC. Second, this decision to allow the silver card was put up to the community, and they voted for it. The gold allowed prior to Anna's join time was my determination. The reason why is because this run was intended to see exactly how much money does Anna make during a playthrough in which she's utilized as a combat unit. So basically, as regular a playthrough as one can intend. The gold prior to her doesn't depend on her, ergo, it was okay to utilize it. It's also a relevant number for later on, but just note that the starting money before Anna was recruited was 24,200 gold. We dumped all the extra gold from the DLC, so it was just the base gold from the game, plus selling a couple of items that I had. Also, somehow Vander was tagged to be brought along for the entire run, so we'll be monitoring his progress as well. The arc from Anna's recruitment up until chapter 12 was mostly as I expected. Anna was given Tiki right off the bat, after gaining a couple of levels with Micaiah, so that nobody could accuse me of not trying to give her some sort of resource. She was basically a staffbot with Micaiah, and was leveled up to level 15 through my careful planning and incurring extra damage and healing 1 HP on 5 people for that max experience gain. We didn't give her the first or second master seals, due to also needing that second seal to really take off, and because Alira and Chloe were deemed better choices for investment at that point in time. Once she got those 2 resources, the levels, the bond fragments to pick up sword proficiency, we immediately made her a mage knight, gave her a nice build inherit, a forged 11 sword, and watched in awe as Louis basically soloed the entire upper side of chapter 9 with only Sigurd, pure water, and a javelin.
I'm not even mad. That's amazing.
Also, Vander with the 3 houses emblem basically was one-tapping things that Anna could. This is definitely due to the fact that Vander gained his prime years back. Look at this Super Saiyan. Just look at him. Fly as hell. Also by chapter 12, after Tiki, Soren, Veronica Paralog, we procced Make a Killing a grand total of 3 times. So a whopping 1500 gold by this point. All jokes aside, this is okay, and roughly expected, because I knew that her money generation was basically limited to player phase only, and if you're moving at a relatively fast pace and know how to maximize your actions, you're seeing her maybe kill 5 to 6 units in a map before we complete it. More in my case because I actively fed her kills multiple times to try and generate money. I want to make the distinction here. I know that there are ways to make Anna one-round the majority of enemies in these chapters, but there are ways to reach these thresholds with tons of units. If I just dump everything into Anna and say, look how good this unit is performing, I'm not doing anything that really strengthens my argument in terms of unit viability discussion. I'm just proving that resource dumping works, which it does, especially in Engage. The limitation brought on by gold also significantly held her back due to not being able to access the higher forges, which also greatly contributes to her combat potential. However, in the Soul Mark, this is really where Anna's combat started to shine through. It took a bit, but now she consistently started to one round with an engraved +2 11 sword. This is also around the same time that Marin arrived along with the Lucina ring. Because of such, bonded shield enemy phase sweeping became more reliable, and now I was able to generate more gold on enemy phase as well. This is what I call the golden age of Anna, doing solid work and being reliable in terms of output of damage. She still possessed Tiki for the majority of it, so before anybody says I should have gone High Priest, just know that she had a constant +10 luck attached to her as a Mage Knight. This decision was also made due to her combat being really solid as a Mage Knight. By the time we complete what I believe is the second portion of the game, Chapter 22, Make a Killing had procced a total number of 30 times, 15k gold, which is a reasonable amount. Mind you, we had all the chapters between 12 and 22, the Corin, Micaiah, Byleth, Ike, Lynn, Erica, and Sigurd paralogs completed during this time. So there was a lot of opportunities to gain the gold. I did try to end a lot of them ASAP, so that may have hampered the generation, but honestly saying it was a bad call isn't really something I agree with, due to taking less turns to complete something just for 500 more gold is not a real life translation of time that I would prefer. and some of them I even skipped outright entirely. During this time, I think the biggest difficulty I have to highlight is that I never really had access to higher ranking weapons, and had to usually pass around thunders and L-thunders and staves because I just couldn't outright buy them. The gold was too tight. I had some forged on hands, but nothing above a +3. Staff usage was also very low, due to utilizing core and dragon vein on flyers for downtime healing, and for bigger heals using the staves you obtain throughout the game. I must have bought 1 or 2 healing staves at max. Also, Naga blessed Hortensia and her personal for conserving the special mobility and status staves, which were absolutely lifesavers. By this time, Vander has also ascended to his more powerful form of a true commander, General Vander, or as we call it, Super Saiyan Blue Vander. He knows no limits. In the last arc, something interesting happened. We only did 2 paralogs, and we basically warp skipped Marth by entrapping him and killing him ASAP. The real interesting thing that happens though, is that the maps towards the end of the game basically become a rush to try and kill the boss ASAP. Because of the tendency of these maps, Anna's utilization as an enemy phase sweeper saw less and less usage, as the playstyle had catered to a more aggressive and hyper-specialized player phase builds, such as Martial Master Chloe, who literally one-rounded almost any health bar on any enemy in the game. The speed creep on enemies that have actual speed also made it difficult for her to consistently double some of the threats. Granted, this is only one group type, basically just the Sword Masters, so it wasn't much of an issue, but I'm just pointing out that specialization starts to get more and more value towards the end of the game. And by this point, you have one of the most powerful tools at your disposal in Engage, in the form of Engage Plus, and it can literally dominate combat to an obnoxious degree. With this in mind, we finally beat the game with 36 procs total, or a total of 18k gold, and in true fashion, we let the hero of this run do its final strike. Yep, that's right. Super Saiyan God, Super God Saiyan Super God Vander did his final strike as his true ascended form to defeat Sombron. Take that, you Jagan haters. Anyways, what do we conclude from this? The biggest hurdles faced were a few. No forges, basically. No buying weapons and staves, only if they were really worth it. And units that came promoted were basically preferred due to not costing a Master Seal. The less costly you were as a unit, the more likely you were making it onto the team. So someone like Saphir was a godsend with her solid bases and already being promoted. You married Lyn to her, and I had a solid combat unit that just contributed after her join time. Let's start with the facts. By the end, the amount of gold generated by Anna was 18k, significantly below all the gold obtained before the end of when her paralog first becomes obtainable, or in other words, before chapter 7. I don't think I can harp on this enough. There was literally huge lump sums of gold dumped onto me at times that would have well surpassed 100k gold. I had to get rid of all of this due to the rules of our run. Donations are a trap, by the way. Don't do them. The countries will survive without your contributions, I promise you. Also, don't pretend you care about the other animals you can get through donations, because everybody knows that you're running a sweatshop of dogs, slaving away 24/7 for the ores. Shame on you. To put this into perspective, assuming we did 20 base chapters, plus 12 paralogs, the gold contribution amounts to basically 562.5 gold per map. Or, in other words, a proc a map. Also to put into perspective, Anna had 207 combats with 149 kills, the highest amount of kills in my army, because I intentionally always fed her kills at any opportunity to try and generate gold. Even with all that, the gold just wasn't rolling in at the rate that people believe it to be. Yes, you can farm endlessly in maps that have infinite reinforcements, or you can just one turn them and beat the game. Clearly, you don't need that much gold to beat the game. If anything, the game gives you enough resources to plow through a lot of the challenges, and as long as you invest correctly, you will come out on top with very little to no resistance. Without DLC, this is a little tighter, but it's also not an issue if you know what you're doing and where to apply your resources. As a unit, I definitely think you should check out my favoritism versus investment video, and in it, I basically have a strong opinion on Anna, and I have to admit, after doing this run, I'm going to double down on it even further. The way I view Micaiah experience is akin to how bonus experience works in FE10. I know that they are not the same, but let me explain to you my logic behind it. In FE10, you can boost a unit up with bonus experience. This allows you to snowball units or catch other units up. But usually the better investment of this resource is units that are already stronger due to being able to contribute on maps while actively using the resource and being able to cap those extra stats. Anna will be stuck healing only while holding Micaiah. And albeit it's easy to do in 2 maps, I strongly prefer a unit that can just contribute for those 2 maps with combat and also use Mikai's experience gain if I have to. They're not mutually exclusive. If you're waiting a turn to get those 5-man heals in, you can also do it after you've bodied someone with Shine anyways. Units like Sailing, Citrine, or even Yunaka can utilize that experience as well without suffering the penalty of only being able to heal and having no other advantage brought to the table. This brings me to another point. At any given point in time of the game, there always seems to be another unit that can do Anna's job as a Mage Knight, but better. In early to mid, it's Citrine due to lower speed thresholds and more magic. In mid to end, it's Pandreo, and after endgame, it's Veil if you decide to reclass. There's always another option, and this isn't to say don't use both. This is just to point out that if your claim is that Bonded Shield enemy face sweeping is a great way to do this, then you really only need one target to do it, because having 2 of the same will not help you in the case of being able to enemy face Bonded Shield. You just need one guy to sit there and tank multiple rounds of combat. You don't need 2. Granted, it is nice to have it on player face as well, but I prefer more specialized player face builds that actively 100% one round the enemy units, not including the staff utility that you can bring along if you just know how to abuse the stave usage. And it's good, I'll grant it, but it's not really the type of playstyle for me, and I still don't think that it's that good of a trade-off. Ultimately, I will say she's a good unit in the long run if you like the 0 to hero types, but I can't be bothered with the investment required and think that there are a lot of better options for that targeted experience. In regards to money though, Anna is quite the biggest Ponzi scheme known to man, and she definitely has fooled all of us into thinking she's making you rich. What do you guys think? Do you think that Anna is actually breaking the bank every single time? Or has this gold generation been overhyped significantly? Let me know what you think about her as a unit as well. I'd love to see your takes. Please like and subscribe. It helps the channel immensely too. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and bye bye.